Be afraid. Be very afraid. Today's review is The Fly, David Cronenberg's masterpiece, in my opinion. One of his best movies, and a real standalone proof that remakes, when done well, can be exceptional, and can even outdo the original. And okay, let's talk a little bit about the original first. A 1950s Vincent Price film. A great movie in its own right. I mean, definitely in kind of that era. One thing that was really capturing the imaginations of audiences was science fiction, whether it be, from alien invaders or science gone amok, like presented in that movie, where scientist accidentally turns himself into a half-man, half-fly. Very literally in that movie, not like a transgressional kind of decay like in the remake. But the thing about that movie is that it's more than just a B movie. The reason it does stand out on its own, like aside from this movie, aside from the Cronenberg movie, it definitely stands out on its own because one, it does have the kind of thing you'd expect from a movie like that from that era, but it moves past what you would expect from that type of a B movie. Like, it's not cheesy. There's actually a genuine human element to it. Like, the scientist in this case, he has a wife who loves him. He has a kid, and it does hint on tragic elements, which it kind of moves beyond the shallow elements of that genre, sort of. And what Cronenberg's film, it has translated that specifically, like the human elements, the tragedy of it, the human relationships of it, among this horror, this absolute horror of a science experiment gone as wrong as they can go. So it does it exceptionally well, and it updates the visual effects, and it updates the kind of the practicality of the science of it all and how it can go wrong. Basically the scientist, he has this element particle changer that can make you go from one place to another. It can transport you in an instant. Amazing technology. It would change transportation as we know it. Just so happens when particles get mixed up, such as a human tries to transport himself, fly goes in, boom. In that movie, pretty much crisscross. He has a fly head, fly hand, then there's a little fly with a human head and a human hand. That's really cool. But this one, with this modern version, that same principle is there with the transporter machine, the telepods. Fly goes in with the scientist, but their DNA completely fuses into one being, not two separate beings, one being. So, kind of as the days go by, as the weeks go by, I'm not entirely sure on the time frame of this movie. Probably maybe a couple weeks, couple of months tops. Definitely. Well, I guess 9 months. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. He's slowly fusing with the fly until he becomes a completely, human fly kind of thing. The fly cells take over, so they're fused into one. They are one. So the movie, it stars Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis as, Jeff Goldblum is a scientist. Gina Davis is the reporter. As often happens in a tragic movie like this, they're not like the husband and wife like in the original. They do spark a romance, and it's a very good one. It's definitely something that you can buy. I think the best kind of compliment you can give a movie like this is that it would actually be kind of an interesting romance standalone if it weren't for the guy turning into a fly. But the acting is legit. I mean, it's definitely a good drama there, real believable, really emotionally sincere. You can kind of see why these two characters would find each other and fall in love, and why it would be all the more tragic when this horrible incident occurs. Both great in this movie, but definitely, I mean, Jeff Goldblum. This is my favorite Jeff Goldblum performance. I know. Jurassic Park, very close second. Maybe Big Chill in there, but this one is just so great. I mean, what he does. I mean, as Seth Brundle, the scientist, is a character in and of itself. He's wonderfully eccentric and excitable and great personality in the true Jeff Goldblum fashion. And as he does turn into the Fly when the experiment goes wrong, he just does such a great job in a very subtle way, and sometimes not in subtle ways. You can really tell, like, yeah, this guy is like turning into a fly. I can see like fly traits if they were presented in a human, or he like have these little ticks like like that. It's such great stuff. Really great. And as the transformation takes its toll and gets worse and worse, and he becomes more and more grotesque, um, he has to act through the makeup, which he does a really great job. I mean, that's one thing that I do miss about movies from this era, from the 80s, when they would have uh, real practical effects. Um, they have to act through the makeup, which, I'll give credit to, say, someone like Andy Serkis, who has to completely do a bare bones performance, wearing like crazy shit all over him, like when he does Gollum or the Caesar the ape in Rise of the Planet of the Apes, or King Kong in what's that movie? King Kong. But like to have to burst through this like layers and layers of like plastic and I don't know what it is, but it's crazy. Like it reaches a point where it doesn't look like Jeff Goldblum, but the way he emotes and the way he gets his performance through, you can tell there is a human under that grotesque creature, which is something that you could pay the highest compliment to, like some of the great actors of the past, like of Boris Karloff when he did his performances, but his was more in like a character actor kind of way. Or Roddy McDowall. Talk about them both this month and their great performances. But it's truly exceptional what Jeff Goldblum has done. I mean, I think it's a performance that he doesn't get enough credit for. I think he should have been nominated for an Oscar for that performance. That's just me. And Gina Davis is really good. She's not like the typical damsel in distress kind of character. I mean, she realizes something's wrong with him, but she thinks maybe it's his personality, the sexual awakening of the nerd. At first she kind of thinks like, okay, this guy's, kind of turn into an asshole after sleeping with him. But then when she realizes something is wrong, and when she realizes that, despite everything, she does have feelings for him. I mean, you really got to feel for her character, and especially, how the end works out. She finds out she's pregnant, and the horrible conflicts, not just in the fact that it's a tragedy and she knows she's going to lose him, but in the fact that, well, okay, maybe I'm pregnant with that gene and the baby's going to come out like that. I mean, that's a terrifying position to be in. And she does it really well. She's really good in the movie. And the way they write it is just great. Like, I mean, they could have gone through any number of different kind of ways to go about this story, but they choose a really genuine and human kind of way about it. Like, how would real people respond in this kind of a situation, which I like. You don't really see stuff like that, which makes it, all the more classic that it is, all the more great movie that it is. Again, one of David Cronenberg's best achievements, in my opinion, not just through remaking, an already classic movie and giving it its own feel. But there's just so much to the story going. Like, even, people can theorize, this is, it's a horror movie about a guy turning into a fly, but it could also be kind of an allegory about AIDS or cancer. I think I remember listening to the commentary a long while ago, but I think kind of generally what David Cronenberg kind of approach to it is about death and about decay and about you know, either way, whether it's a disease or it's aging, you know, facing your own mortality, and it does it again in a kind of Kafkaesque way. The man who dreamt he was a human, but he was really a fly all along. Oh, that's sad. But yeah, it's a great movie. Great characters, really, really amazing makeup. The makeup won an Oscar, deservingly so. Just a truly, truly great movie, in my opinion. One of my favorites, definitely something that I feel obligated to watch around this time, around Halloween time, because it definitely has the atmosphere for it. Definitely has the horror to it. It's not even like a straight up horror movie, though. It does have kind of like the end showdown where, you know, he's holding her hostage and wants to put her in the telepod and things like that, and the ex-boyfriend character comes and tries to save the day, and then he gets vomited on. So there's all that kind of like sort of action movie stuff, but in a very Cronenbergian way. I mean, Cronenberg, I don't think he's made a quote-unquote normal movie ever. He always does something a little more askew, a little something more cerebral, more just against the curve, which is something I love about him. Sometimes it doesn't always work, but you know, when it works great. I think this might be his best movie because it does go off center, but it keeps it on just such a fine line that it's a fairly accessible movie to audiences. It's not like going to be like, you know, completely out there like some of his other movies. So I think it's a remarkable achievement. One of the best remakes out there. One of the best horror movies, if you want to call it a horror movie. And yeah, I love it. It's great. But that'll do it. Thanks for watching.